Welcome into the shop and welcome to the first episode of This Old Manikin. This Old Manikin is going to be a web series that's going to come out from time to time. We're going to have a variety of different episodes and availability and try to make this as fun as possible as we go. You're going to see everything from mannequins, which is what I've been teasing you for over 6 months now in this box. We're going to talk about tips and tricks. We're going to have sponsors. We might even have some vendors on and talk about some of the products and things like that, and just try to be a good resource to everything in the healthcare simulation industry. So I'll be your host. My name is David Shablak, and let's get into it. So I've been teasing you for quite a while and just been really busy, so I haven't been able to get into it with this case here. And so this is our first subject. This is what's referred to as a Mystic. It's a Laerdal product, or better known as a 3G trauma. So I got a few of these guys, and this one has been set up just for this show. I have only cracked the box about once, maybe twice, so I have no idea what I'm getting myself into with this mannequin. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to do it together. So this is one of two boxes. We'll get into the second box later, but mainly this is the torso. So this is the meat and potatoes of it. And if you forget one latch, it won't open. So these were bought. They are well outside the warranty. And that's one thing I do want to get through, is that most of what we're going to talk about is well outside of the manufacturer's warranty. If you buy a newer mannequin, or if your mannequin's under warranty, or if you work for an institution that has certain rules, you may or may not want to follow some of the guidelines or some of the suggestions we have here. Number one most important thing is make sure you're following your institution's rules. And don't go out of the parameters of what the manufacturers are saying as far as modifications, cleaning, or anything like that. So you can get yourself in trouble and cost yourself a lot of money. So like I said, this is all about a mannequin that is well outside of its warranty. This one's had a hard life. We're going to get him out of the case and show you. So this is a military veteran. He has definitely seen better days. Try to get him in focus here. He's dirty. He is well used. He definitely has some deep staining, deep coloring, and things like that. So whenever I get a mannequin like this, the first thing I really like to do before I tech him out or check any features or anything like that is just give him a good wash. And this guy's got some pretty heavy staining all around. Definitely got some concerns and some problems that over the series of this show we're going to talk about and address and try to fix. So, but the number one thing we're going to do is simply clean it. I know it's not, exciting or sexy, but we're going to talk about cleaning. Most all your manufacturers, the number one way they say to clean it is just good old soap and water. So that's what we're going to do. I've got a bucket of water, some good old non-aggressive cleaners, just a mild detergent, and a scrubby brush. Now, this has got two sides to it. It's considered a no scratch sponge, but it can still abrade the skins and things like that. So really what we want to do is work on just the sponge side of it. If you get some deep staining and things like that, we will probably be talking about that in the very next episode. So I'm just going to give a little bit of soap. I like Dawn. Get some suds in there. And you don't want to use too much, okay? When you're cleaning your mannequin, you don't want it to be dripping off the sponge and that sort of thing. So what we're going to do is simply go through and give it a good clean down. You also want to make sure you have some towels or some sponges and that sort of thing. A lot of times what I'll do is take off different parts so I can really get down in it. And that tube is going straight through the mannequin, so I'm just going to attach it right there, put it off to the side. I kind of try to disassemble as I go, get them nice and clean. If there's hard plastic here, and you can use the more abrasive side of it, but any of your skins, whether it be silicone, PVC, or anything like that, it's gonna tear up that skin. You may not even see it, but especially if we get into the point where we're talking about disinfection and that sort of thing, that is one of the biggest reasons why you do not want to use a hard abrasive scrubber. I also like a nice toothbrush, something like that, if I'm really trying to get down in there. So like right down in the crevice here for the sternal IO part, you really want to be able to get down in there and clean that nice, and that's when a toothbrush is good. Nice thing is that's removable, and a lot of us don't have these on there, but when the mannequins first came out, a lot of them had that sternal IO port. So I'm going to unzip the skins. This is the first edition skin where it doesn't have zippers on both sides. On this edition, this version of mannequin and this brand by the manufacturer, it was about one of the best upgrades they came out with, which was the double-sided zips. Probably going to be speeding this video up because watching somebody clean a mannequin is not really that interesting. Now I know I just told you a whole bunch of not using the abrasive side, and you see me every once in a while slipping around to it. You got to make that call for yourself because sometimes it requires a little bit more of an aggressive cleaning. I just want you to know though that it can abrade the surface, leaving little pockets for dirt and germs and things like that to get into. That face has definitely seen some hard days. And since the airway is attached to the face, there's not probably a chance in the world that I'm going to get a new face. Ooh. That eyeball is definitely, the orbital is fractured. So that's going to mean some very interesting work for us later. So if you look, there's pen mark, and that sort of staining that happens to all of us on our mannequins. Those are particularly hard to get out. And this face is dirty enough that I have to use that abrasive side. But again, this is a mannequin that's well out of its warranty, and you've got to get it cleaned. Whole lot of blood and grime and dirt. So soap and water is only cutting it so much. So I think what we're going to do is walk up to the next step. And for that, I'll be right back. So soap and water is our first pass. There's a lot of different steps you can go, and you want to go least invasive to most invasive, obviously. And again, we're talking about mannequins that are well out of the warranty. So we can be a little more daring. We can be a little more aggressive from the get-go. versus a mannequin that, we don't want to void our warranty, and then if something goes wrong, cost us hundreds or thousands of dollars to fix. So my next jump up is isopropyl alcohol. 99% works pretty darn well, and that's give you my next step on trying to get this face cleaned up. I could be a little more liberal with spraying it on there, but I still like to be pretty controlled. So especially around electronics and things like that. So I see, apart from the ink, there's a lot of red staining from bloods. Red pigments, as I've talked about before, are really murderous on these skins. You have to be very careful. I'm a big fan of barrier products. I'm a big fan of not leaving it on the skins for too long. The quicker you can get it off, the less chance you have of it staining. 99% isopropyl alcohol tends to cut through some of the grease and the grime better. There's a whole lot of things that people will use. Another favorite is Goo Gone, for adhesives especially, and that sort of thing. This is just a mannequin that's seen some really hard training days. And the staining is pretty profound. We're going to need to break down their eyes. We need to do a whole bunch to this mannequin to try to get him back into frontline service. Give him a good post-military life. Definitely want to take that high tape off. It leaves a lot of residue. Especially after it's been stuck there for 5 years, probably. As we tear into them, we're going to probably be going right back to cleaning. This is just talking about the surface cleaning. If you look, 99% breaks through the adhesives pretty well. Blood gets everywhere.
We'd like to take a minute and thank our sponsor for this episode, which is Sim2Grow. Sim2Grow is a little more unique medication administration solution. We're going to bring in a guest you all the way from the med room better to cleaning the bedside. Before that, they have a fully customizable dispensing unit and EMR. It only has a one-time cost to your program with no ongoing subscription fees. real-time barcode scanning of patients and medications. There's no Wi-Fi needed after the initial setup. And then there's automatic resets between uses. Schedule a demo or get more information. Contact Sim2Grow at sim2grow.com.
So welcome back to This Old Manikin. We went through uncrating the mannequin and starting with cleaning him, soap and water, and talked a little bit about the isopropyl alcohol. But as we've shown through some pictures and through scrubbing, there are some things that just your soap and water won't work on. And for that, I brought on two people that I learned some of the best techniques on some really stubborn stains and cleaning on. And that is Amy Follmer and Sarah Rucker. And at that point, I'm going to let them introduce themselves, talk about where they're from and their positions, and then we're going to go from there. So, ladies.
Hi, well, thanks again for having us, David. So I'm Amy Follmer. I'm this, we should say where we're from first. So we're from the Zamorowski Institute for Experiential Learning. We're in Kansas City, Kansas. We are about a 45,000 square foot simulation space that we serve learners from both the academic side, so School of Medicine, School of Health Professions, and then also the health system side. So we've got all of the residency learners, we've got practicing physicians, practicing nurses, and other unlicensed professionals or licensed professionals.
That keeps you busy.
Yes. So fairly large space. Our team, like our full Zeal team, is up to probably 30-ish now. So we're a fairly large simulation space and team. So in Zeal, I am the simulation technology strategist. Such a unique title, got to pick it myself. And within my role, I do a lot of the maintenance, the updates, the systems integration type things, along with also helping plan and run simulation events.
Yeah, and I'm Sarah Rucker. I'm the simulation operations manager here at Zeal. I've been at Zeal for about 3.5 years. In healthcare simulation for about 3.5 years. Prior to that, I was a video production manager, and that love of AV, and then being a lifelong tinkerer and taking things apart, putting them back together and fixing them, kind of made me I feel like led me straight into this career that we all have in simulation.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always tell people it's the coolest job nobody ever knew existed. So I know we had met online a few times, and then we finally connected at IMSH San Antonio. I know I've been to several of your classes. Both of you have presented. You're both very, very active in the simulation community, and really, we look at you guys as mentors and love to hear from you. You guys also, I know, Amy, you have a position with IMSH, and you're just both very, very active in the community. So first off, thank you very much. I know I've heard, deep staining removal techniques from a lot of different sources, but like I said, I first heard it from you. So on this guy and this mannequin, like I said, he's had a hard life. This is a veteran, and he's a military veteran, and we're trying to give him a good post-military life. And he has got some awfully stubborn ink stains. It's harder to see, but I'll put the pictures up in stills. But he's got a whole bunch of blood staining where the blood has just stayed on the skin. And we all know how bad that is for this style of skin, the PVC-based skins. So can you go over some of the techniques you use and, what success and how best be successful with getting rid of some of these stains?
Sure. I know you've already kind of mentioned it, the soap water. We start there always, even if it looks like a super gnarly stain. It's the less abrasive way to go. So we start with soap and water and try to go with like a non-abrasive cloth to go with that. If that doesn't work after a couple goes, then we move on to just isopropyl alcohol. We typically use 70%, let it sit on there for a minute or so, and then we go after it with another, again, non-abrasive, maybe microfiber cloth. We also love the Kim wipes that we stock here in every sim room for these instances, and then we go to town on those. So we always try those first two kind of less abrasive things before we go heavy duty. And I'm going to let Amy talk about what we do when we go heavy duty.
Yes.
So it's like I always say too, is it's least invasive to most invasive. So that goes for what we do in cleaning and in medicine and all that. Sorry, Amy.
I was just going to say, before we move on to that, we should, of course, provide a disclaimer, which I'm sure you already have. that you should always look at your manufacturer warranty and your manual to figure out what it is you can or can't use on your simulator. What we use may or may not be approved by the manufacturer, but these are the things that we found useful in our use and cleaning. So just always be aware of what you're using.
And the rules of your organization, because like you said, it may not be approved by the or by the manufacturer, but if you've gone through, you've tested it in your organization, your rules say it's okay, then you're good. So, and that's a great point. That's why a lot of what I say is what I'm teaching you is for out of warranty mannequins. But again, you always have to make sure that you're going by the rules of your organization. So thank you.
Yep. And then another good tip before you're using a new cleaning type or chemical on your simulator, you might want to start with a test skin. So what we've got here is our old SimMan skin. So this came off of him during a maintenance visit. So we saved it, of course, to use for all the things. So it's probably best to start with either test skin, or if you have like the back of the mannequin or a place that's less visible, because if you put something on that doesn't react well and it's like right on the center of his arm, you're going to have to look at that every day for forever.
Good tip.
So it's a good thing. So when we move past the soap and water and alcohol, the first thing we go to, usually because we have grimy buildup from either defib pads or EKG leads or all the sticky tapes that end up on him, tegaderms, those leave all kinds of residue. So what we move to as our first step after that is adhesive remover wipes. So the ones we use are ones that are available through our health system purchasing. So they're ones that they use on patients.
Nice.
I know you can find different types on Amazon, and I've had other people say which ones they use, but I don't remember specifically. But so we use the Unisolve adhesive remover wipes, but there's lots of different types available. And we use these basically multiple to get all the sticky residue up. So you start at the sticky spot, you rub through all that, and then you can go over with paper towels, and the big chunks kind of start coming off at that point. And then it's also after that a nice idea to follow up again with the isopropyl, because that kind of cleans sometimes they have like a residue or an odor from the wipes, and you'll want to make sure you get that off as well.
Just a quick tip to avoid that residue and odor on your hands. We always, when we move to the adhesive remover wipes, we always encourage our Simtech specialists here to wear gloves when they get the wipes out, because they do leave a kind of an unpleasant scent. Who knows what you're absorbing through your skin? So always a good rule of thumb.
Yes.
Good tip. Great tip.
So ideally that'll get the bulk of your stickiness up. Do you have anything else you use with that, David?
No, I've heard a lot of other things, and everybody's got their kind of eye of newt, wing of bat. You know, I've heard a lot of powders, and Goo Gone is a really, really popular one. And knowing what the base is for a lot of these cleaners is good, because I know that a lot of the adhesive removers use mineral oil, and like Goo Gone has the orange concentrate, which I can never pronounce correctly, but it's delaminine, I believe it is. But like you said, using just those original base chemicals are a little more aggressive than something that's watered down like Goo Gone and that sort of thing. So knowing what you can do and knowing what works for you. Like you said, I don't throw anything away. I've got skin stuffed all over. You know, I have random drivers that go, what are those arms sticking out of a box? And those are my test skins. So it's perfect. Nope.
Do you want to talk about that step?
I can talk about some of the stains we've run into that we've actually had to bring out our heavy hitter that Amy's going to talk about with benzoyl peroxide. One of the most difficult stains we've ever had to get out of a mannequin was actually on a SimMan 3G. This is not the man who was tattooed, but for our OR simulations, anesthesia simulations, oftentimes our patients are wearing SCBs on their legs. And I don't know if we can get a decent shot. I'm going to try to bring it close to the camera, but see this little outline of the man. You can see that there. On back of both of his calves was a perfect imprint. He had two great tattoos. And we didn't realize that until we got used in a different program. But what we've been doing and didn't know it was damaging the mannequin was leaving those SCBs on his legs when he was just hanging out in the OR. Turns out it's a big no-no because it imprints onto his skin. So we tried the water, we tried the isopropyl, we tried the adhesive removers to no avail. And that's when we tried our next thing that Amy's going to tell us.
So this next method that we use, we are definitely not the ones who created it. I know we found it online somewhere.
Yes.
Don't know. It's been so long. I don't know who or where we got it from. But it's kind of a known thing in the community. But it's using benzoyl peroxide, which is actually an acne medication. That combined with UV light does a really good job of removing set-in stains. So whether it's like ink pins that that accidentally got on him during a simulation, or imprints from SCDs or any kind of packaging or writing, or IV. What do they write on the IVs? The dates on the IVs, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've had that. Or what I've had is, as providers, we always write vitals on our gloves. And then if the patient codes, where are we putting those hands? So we get tattooing there. You get the IV, like you said, the tegaderm, the little line where it says the date on the tegaderm, or if they write on there, it goes through. So, and we always find out about it later. We don't think about, who would think about the printing on the SCD boots? So it's, you know, we do our best we can to keep these things off them. And that's why people put signs up saying, you know, ink stain, you know, I'm allergic to ink and things like that. But knowing how to fix things is a good thing. So please go on.
So to go back using your benzoyl peroxide. So it's pretty easy to find. You can find off-brand just about anywhere you buy medical supplies. So Walgreens, CVS, Walmart, wherever. Amazon probably has it.
That's Amazon's. Got it right here.
Nice. I think we ended up with healthcare specific one. We must have bought it from our health system.
Nice.
What it looks like. But you'll start by applying it to the area that has the stain. You'll kind of want to spread it kind of evenly over that area, and make sure you have it covered. And it does not always work in the first time, especially when you have really set in stains. Like the first iteration of it might fade it some, but it might take multiple applications to completely remove the stain. But once you've got that applied, then you need to expose your skin to UV light. Now for us, we happen to have OR setups that have UV surgical lights. That works really well for us. If you don't have that available, I've always thought the idea of like a picnic with some Man 3G, like out on the courtyard in the UV light for 4 to 6 hours of my workday while his skin sets, like that would be pleasant. Haven't had the time for it yet. But they also make UV lights made for like cleaning and other things on Amazon that you could purchase if you don't have access to, for example, like a surgical light and don't have
I've got one of those with my 3D printer. The only thing you got to worry about is, depending on what kind it is, it can actually hurt you. And you got to be very careful with what band of UV light and things like that. And that's why when you said take it outside, that's the perfect thing. But I know that right now some of the higher ups are going, oh, don't take my mannequin out and leave them in the parking lot because somebody's going to drive.
Right? It's a supervised.
Right.
You can't just do it, so.
Yeah.
Correct. So, and then normally how long do you leave this on for?
So we usually leave the first dose for about half a day with the light, and then we'll come back and check it out. We usually clean it off again with the isopropyl alcohol, and depending on how much that's faded, we'll apply another application. And usually by the end of that first day, it's usually better. But we have had some stubborn stains that take like another dosage of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm a little bit of a squirrel, and usually I'm going to put this on and then I'm going to go off and do 100 other things. I'm going to forget about it for a day or two, and then I'm going to come back and then peel it off or wipe it off and do the same thing. And that's, like you said, if it's really sunk in there, usually you have to do multiple applications to get it on. The other key is the sooner you can get this off the skin, the more successful you will be. And that's with any sort of inks or makeups or anything is, you know, the shorter amount of time you can leave it on, the more successful. At least that's been my experience. Is that yours as well?
Yes, so true. When we left the SCDs for months and it had imprinted in the back of his legs, that was much harder to get off than just the like pin marks from the gloves.
Yeah, that was a several day process for sure of coming back and checking every so often. So,
and this also brings up another point of knowing what your mannequins are made out of. And what we're talking about right now is we're having these successes on the PVC based skins. And so those are by several manufacturers, but we've got right now the Laerdal, which is the 3G series, but this also works on Kelly's and Annie's and stuff like that. So, but your silicone based mannequins, you know, what sticks to silicone? Silicone. There you go. So anything else you guys use to help get, you know, stains off or anything like that, or help clean, or just words of wisdom you want to share?
This covers it. I think the only other thing would be when you do apply stuff, sometimes either using, like, again, starting with a test area, but sometimes depending on what you're putting on the simulator, you can either use like a barrier layer. Mm-hmm. So putting some like Vaseline, or like, even though tegaderms are sticky, they at least don't stain color. So you can use something like a barrier with Vaseline or a Tegaderm instead of applying the makeup or the color that you don't know will stain directly to the skin. And that'll help you out with that cleanup on the back end.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's always thinking about what could hurt things in the beginning versus having to deal with what happened to it. And yeah, Tegaderm's one I use all the time. I do caution that some people will use cream makeups on top of the Tegaderm. Tegaderm is porous. It allows the skin to breathe, so it can actually let some of that pigment migrate. So for most things it doesn't, but I've had some actual cream makeups will go through. So that's why I suggest like an Opsite or something like that that is not as porous. So well, I really appreciate having you guys on the episode. I hope you'll come back. I hope you've enjoyed and share more tips and tricks to the other people in our industry and to help out. So from this Old Manikin, I want to say thank you very, very much.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
All right. And that concludes this episode, and appreciate your time and hope to see you again.